This is Chapter 5, Lesson 1 of 7th grade math. Talking about probability and simple events. These are the notes that we went over in class. The first blank is going to be probability. Is the chance that some event will occur. The probability of an event is a ratio that compares the number of favorable outcomes to the number of possible outcomes. So when we talked about fractions, remember we talked about parts of the whole. So the possible number of outcomes, that's going to be your whole. How many possible outcomes could there be? And then the favorable outcomes is considered your part. Okay? So if that helps you remember, great. A simple event is one outcome or a collection of outcomes. Outcome is any one of the possible results of an action. Sample space is the set of all the possible outcomes. Sometimes it helps to make a tree diagram. And if we had a coin and we have heads or tails, or a number cubed, okay? So if we do the coin, you're going to have heads or you're going to have tails. There's only two possible outcomes on a coin. But a cube, the number on a cube, when you get a regular dice, the dice has 6 possible numbers that you could roll. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm going to list it twice because it has a chance of landing on heads and one of these 6. It has a chance of landing on tails and one of these 6 numbers. Okay, so out of this example, you have these possibilities. It could land on head and 1, head and 2, head and 3, head and 4, head and 5, head and 6. Then it also has a possibility of landing on tails. Tails and 1, tails and 2, tails and 3, tails and 4, tails and 5, tails and 6. Okay, and if we wanted to list the sample space, we could list it. Instead of making a tree, we could do a list. And honestly, making the tree helps with the list. Because you can see it could be a heads 1, heads 2, heads 3, heads 4, heads 5, heads 6. It could be tails 1, tails 2, tails 3, tails 4, tails 5, tails 6. So how many possible outcomes? What's the total number of outcomes that we could have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Same thing with here. So the total outcome would be 12. So let's look at the next example. Determine the probability of 6 or the probability of rolling a 6. How likely is it to roll a 6? Draw a tree diagram as well. So remember your dice has the 6 possible 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so the probability of us rolling a 6. How many total do we have? We have 6 possible outcomes. But how many 6s do we have? We only have 1 6. So our chances would be 1 out of 6. That is your fraction form. Now we have to turn this into a decimal. Okay? So you're going to need to do your math, and I would show all my work on notebook paper and then put your answers on your homework page to turn in. It's going to be much neater that way because you're going to have to show all 3 steps. Fraction form and a decimal form. So 1 divided by 6, 6 cannot go into 1. So you put your decimal and add your 0. 6 can go into 10 one time. 4 left over, add another 0. 6. And you're going to have a repeating decimal. Do you see how that's going to repeat? Oh. So, your decimal form is this. And now your percent, remember when you do percents from a decimal, you just move it over 2 spots. So your percent sign will be 116.6 because it's repeating percent. So on all of your answers on the homework page, you need to have 3 answers per problem. Fraction, decimal, percent. Okay? And you are doing the odds on your homework. I'm going to do some little reminders for you because this is pretty easy. You can do this on your own. Okay. The spinner shown is spun once. Determine the probability of each event. Express each answer as a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. So you're going to have a fraction, a decimal, and a percent on all of your problems, on your answers. I would put your answers on this sheet, show all of your work on a piece of notebook paper. Okay? I know she did these 2 in class. If 8 cards are marked 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10, 8, 9, 10, such that each card has exactly one of these numbers. A card is picked without looking. Determine each probability. Express each answer as a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. So again, you have your fraction, you have your decimal, and you have your percent. Here was a fraction, a percent, and your decimal. Okay? So just because it counts up to 10 doesn't mean there's 10 numbers there. We started at 3. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards. There's not 10 cards, there's 8 cards. Okay? The next section, the spinner is spun once. Write a sentence stating how likely it is for the event to happen. Justify your answer. Okay, this means you need to write a sentence. Okay, if you look at fish, there's 1 fish. Oh, there's only 1 fish. 1 out of how many? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 1 out of 10 is a fish. So is it very likely for you to land on fish? Odds are not in your favor because there's only 1 fish. Okay, and this one said bird, cat, or fish. Bird, cat, or fish. So you have to count all of those. Not just the bird, not just the cat, not just the fish. all of those put together. Are your odds pretty good at that? Let's see. On the back, the probability of simple events. For exercises 1 and 2, the spinner shown is spun once. The spinner shows the prizes a person can win at a party. So you're going to use the spinner for number 1. But also, from 1 through 8, express each answer as a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. Okay, number 1 has 3 questions. What's the probability it will spin a cap, a whistle, and a cap and a yo-yo? So, you're going to have the cap as a fraction, decimal, percent. You're going to have a whistle as a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. Then you're going to have a cap or yo-yo as a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. So number 1 has 9 answers to it. Number 3, the weather report says there is an 85% chance it will be very hot tomorrow. Should you get ready to use the air conditioner? Explain your answer. So again, you're going to show this in a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. And with it being 85% chance it's going to be very hot, you think you would turn on the air conditioner and then tell me why or why not. Number 5, Theresa is thinking a multiple choice test does not know the answer. She can guess answers A, B, C, D, or E. What is the probability that Theresa will guess correctly and incorrectly? Okay, so you need to see what is she going to do correctly in a fraction, decimal, percent, and then for incorrectly, a fraction, a decimal, percent. Okay, this one's kind of tricky. So if you get one right, then what's the odds of you getting the rest of them wrong? Okay, they're not the same answer here. Number 7, Mrs. Phillips has 10 identical cans without labels. She knows that she had 1 can of peas, 5 cans of corn, 1 can of carrots, 3 cans of beets. She opens 1 can. What's the probability of it being carrots? Okay, so she has 10 cans total. Okay, what's the probability that it'll be a carrot, a can of carrots? What's the probability of it being corn and beets? So again, with carrots, you're going to have a fraction, decimal, percent. Sorry, I don't know if you can see that. And corn or beets in a fraction, decimal, and a percent. Okay? This has a lot of numbers, a lot of answers on all of these questions. Make sure you have answered every question with a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. If you have any questions, you can ask them on this video. And Ms. Harrison will be in her room at 7:15 in the morning.